Here in East Texas, stories matter. On the Right Team podcast, we bring you the best of it all: local sports, rich history, and national takes with a hometown perspective, along with faith and inspiration to keep you moving forward. From the classroom to the field, we're about learning, growing, and celebrating the communities we call home. There's something here for everyone. Listen to the Right Team podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The Right Team podcast, East Texas stories told right. Welcome back to From the Press Box here on the Right Team podcast. We're coming to you from deep in the piney woods of East Texas. As always, I'm David Weaver, the host of the Right Team podcast, and we are waiting, of course, for a few more minutes on my co-host, Matt Paul. He had a little dentist appointment this morning, but I am joined in the meantime by a special guest today, none other than the head football coach and athletic director at Marshall Independent School District, who actually, ironically, is the perfect time to have you on, Coach, because we know you're starting spring ball today.
Yes, sir. We're trying to wait as long as we can. You know, as the spring got busy with everything, but we're cranking off today and trying to make sure we get everybody going and have a great spring ball.
So there is a debate, and it goes from school to school, and obviously you've chosen to take advantage of spring ball. You know, what for you and your program over there with the Mavs, what do you see as the benefit of actually taking part in spring practice?
Well, it's just math to me. You know, you get 18 spring practices, or you get six additional practices in the fall. And then, you know, you could get an extra scrimmage that way. So if you look at it all together, that's 7 days. 18 is way larger number than 7. You know, I don't. I mean, I'm not. I don't know. Everybody's got to make their own decision. Unless I've got a huge number playing baseball and baseball is in the playoffs or something like that. It's just math to me that you would take 18 over 7. So
yeah, you mentioned those spring sports. And that does go a lot into it. I know in your decision. Do you make that decision well ahead of time that you're going to have spring ball, or do you kind of wait and see how those spring sports are going to kind of judge, am I going to have enough bodies to do this? Yeah,
that's one of the reasons why you push it back as late as you can, in my opinion, is you push it back late as you can, see who's left, make adjustments. It depends on who's coming back and what positions too. Like for me, spring ball is really about defensive line development. And so I want to spend a lot of time with offensive, defensive line and development there. You know, we got summer. We can still do 7-on-7. We can still throw and catch and develop some more skill kids over the summer. But you know, now's a good time to work on the physicality, because you don't have to worry about a game next week and being healthy. You know, and obviously we're going to try to take care of the kids and keep them healthy, but it gives you a lot longer time to recover from those injuries. So, but yeah, we look back and we try to push as late as we can. We make adjustments along the way, you know, and then we try to get, you know, as long as we're getting 8 or more practices, we're going to pick up, you know, a practice or 2 on our competition.
What are some goals? I mean, going into this, obviously you've talked a little bit about the developing the physicality and that kind of thing. What are some, you know, just general goals that you always look for when you go into the spring, as far as, you know, is this a time where you determine personnel, or does it give you an idea of what to expect more in that regard coming back into the fall?
Yeah, I think it's about checking boxes. You know, like I want to walk out of the spring in a perfect world situation. You're trying to walk out of spring. You got 22 starters. I feel good about these backups and doing those things. You know, I don't know if I've ever been through a spring where I've said that though. You know, you're still in development phase, but I tell the coaches, I told them this morning, like it's about checking boxes. Can we check a couple boxes this week? Can we check a couple boxes next week? And as you're progressing through it, you end up and you might have checked, you know, 5-6 boxes along the way, and those are boxes you may not have had checked before. So that's our goal with that. Obviously, the O-line, D-line physicality, but it's also, you know, our defensive physicality as a whole, our offensive physicality as a whole. You know, blocking, tackling in real pads, not just touch football, which, you know, we play a lot of touch football in the summer. So.
Yeah. So you mentioned physicality, and you and I have talked before about that in terms of the style that you have implemented in your time at Marshall. That's a very important part of what you guys do overall, right? I mean, winning the line of scrimmage and it starts, as you just said, right here with the mentality in the spring, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we're blessed to have very physical and kids that are not. I mean, it's been our kids. When our kids have executed and they're not scared of physicality, they're not scared to compete. That's really what's made us have success. But it's a new batch of kids, and that's why the spring is so important. Is that we got a few guys back, but for the most part, 9 guys on defense and 7 on offense. So it's a good number of guys being replaced, and so those question marks and unchecked boxes are there, and so we got to go just keep grinding them out and go from there.
And I'm going to ask you this question. It always starts seemingly with everyone with quarterback. We know your quarterback, Alton Henderson, graduated or is graduating. What are you looking for, with some things to develop in a new quarterback?
Well, the biggest thing I think is numbers. We're trying to put as many guys in that quarterback position as possible right now. And because I believe it. That's why Alton was such a good player. Alton went through a competition. He started with 7 other quarterbacks the day he started competing for that job. He ended up beating him out and holding that job for 2 years for us because of the kind of competitor he was. So really what I want to see is guys compete for the job. Number one, compete. We can change the offense a little bit here and there to help a quarterback out. For example, Alton could run. We ran the quarterback more. If the new quarterback can't run, then, we're going to have to throw it more, So to me, I need a competitor first, and then you got to figure out what's their best suits, what scheme helps them play ball. But we're looking for a competitor. That's number one thing.
And I think you mentioned it there that sometimes fans like myself will look at and think, this we're a running team or we're a spread team or whatever. When I think really what you're looking for is versatility, right? The ability to be able to do both and be adjustable and flexible with your systems. And I think the way you just said it is kind of what you're explaining there, is that you guys are looking for versatility above all things, right?
Yeah. Yes. Now what comes out in the end may be different from what we plan on doing. I mean, but I look at offense as, you can't, and now I think especially now, you don't cookie cutter your offense and just say, this is what we do. We only do this and this. You got to look through and see what your kids are best at and lean that direction. You can't just say, well, we got to do this or we got to do that. We have to do what's best for these kids to win. And so obviously if you had a kid that's really versatile, a kid that could run, throw, knows how to check plays, do all the things we ask a quarterback to do, that'd be a perfect world situation. But the reality is most of these kids are coming in with something that we have to develop that's not quite there. So, but no, we're excited about that part. I mean, yes, we want versatility, and we're going to adapt. We're going to adapt to what our kids can do. We're not going to be. We're the adults. We're the grown-ups. We're the professionals. We can change a lot easier than the kids can sometimes.
Let's kind of transition into, of course, there was some big news over the offseason here with the new district alignment. As most coaches go, I think, at least the ones I've dealt with in my career, I mean, you literally are there trying to fill a schedule out most of the time, or at least make plans ahead of time for when that comes down from the UIL. What was that like for you this year with these 2 new teams coming in? Obviously, a little bit more travel is involved. But, what was that like for you being able to, first of all, able to fill out a schedule?
Yeah, it took about 48 hours to get a full schedule, which is a little unexpected. But we got a full schedule. We kept Tyler on board. We're going to play Longview week 2, and then we've got Garland week 3, and then we're going to be in the district. It wasn't anything shocking. I think we kind of had a good thought about what was going to happen. I guess the biggest question is whether they were going to leave us in a smaller team district and then put put Tyler and Greenville in another district, or they're going to put them in our district, and we'd have a larger district. That was really the only question going in my mind. But we ended up with a larger district that's a little better usually to help fill out a schedule. Obviously, adding Terrell is a really good challenge. I mean, it's a challenge for us, and they're going to be a great team in this district. So,
what do you think about the travel of that? I mean, Matt and I have debated that as far as it's not necessarily, I don't think such a big deal for guys right here in Harrison County. But, when you look at a Nacogdoches having to get on a bus and go to Greenville, potentially, and vice versa, the travel makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, but and that's it's just another obstacle, right? I mean, you can't. I'm never going to. I would never answer a question why'd I lose a game, and I'd say because I traveled too far. I don't. I just don't. I would never. I think it's a non-factor for the. I think it's a bigger factor for fans, and it's a bigger factor for school districts in terms of getting out of school early and buses and all, and getting back late and all those things. But no, we're used to traveling. I mean, there's no excuse for us to have to travel however far. Now, Knack to Greenville's a great distance, but if you look across the state, this is what we got into. When we split divisions, and we got 5A D1, 5A D2. This is across the state. The travel is further. Playoff travels further. All those things are happening. And again, it's good. I mean, it's good for football in terms of some of the smaller schools in the division can still be able to compete. We're I can't remember the exact number. I think we're in the top or the bottom 20 in enrollment in the state of Texas in 5A. So when you're down like us, we played Huntsville last year, 1,800 kids. I mean, there's a huge difference between 1,300 and 1,800 kids. So we'll trade. I'm willing to trade every time a little bit of travel for playing people more relative to your size. So
that's a great point. Take your football coach hat off for just a second and put on your AD hat. And you talk about the split divisions. How has that gone, in your opinion, with the other sports being in the split divisions? There's been some chatter that I've heard that some folks aren't too happy, particularly in basketball and things like that, that it just kind of was hard to follow. What's kind of been your take on that as an AD?
Yeah, well, as an AD, I was for it, and I'm still for it. I mean, it's, there's a lot of, I mean, and 5A is pretty unique in this part, but the difference between the very bottom of 4A and the very bottom of 5A and the very top is huge. So, we're talking about, and we ended up with Anna in the first round. And they're very large. I mean, they're still large, and they're getting larger. And so we've got a population mismatch across the state of Texas. We've got booming areas around the metroplexes in the cities, and we've got areas that are, slow decline or relative, just holding still out in the rural areas. So that's part of it. Now, I would continue to have it like this. I think it gives some smaller teams a chance in those divisions. It is a little bit more confusing, and it may not matter as much in basketball, for example. You only need, if you got 6 or 7 guys, you're probably pretty good shape in basketball. It's a little easier for schools to be relatively the same, in basketball, whereas football, it's a little bit more striking, the comparison in numbers sometimes. But I'm for it generally.
Okay, let's get back to football here real quick. And I know you got some stuff coming up in the summer. I know you mentioned 7-on-7, of course, and things like that. What are some goals that you're looking for, again, to continue development in the summer, and some scheduling things that you're looking at as far as when things are going to take place?
Well, we usually we're going to play our spring game up until the 18th of May. So, and then we'll take about a week and a half off, and we'll start the first week of June with our summer programs. This is something we've done pretty same plan basically for 4 years now. The UIL gave us the ability to work out our kids in the summer, and we're going to take advantage of it. Our kids have been really good about it. I'll say in this community, we're trying to feed the kids as much as we can. We've got people in this community helping us with that. We try to get them up here. We try to get a great weight workout in, and then we do some football skills, and then eat and go on with our summer. We do that 4 days a week. We'll end up having a 6-week program this year. One thing different this year we're going to do is we got a combine. We're going to treat it like at the end of the summer. What do we get better at? And so we're going to sit down and do some evaluation of that. And again, it helps the kids. Just another opportunity for kids to go out and compete. So who wants to go compete in that combine? So I think it'd be a great way to kind of end the summer this year. We'll play some 7-on-7 in the month of June. We don't play any in July. Really, that's just an extenuating what we're doing in the spring, trying to throw and catch and develop some of the passing stuff that we felt, especially coming out of spring, we feel like still needs to work.
One last question here. And it's a busy summer. I mean, football season speaks for itself. What do you do as a coach to try to get yourself mentally ready as far as some downtime in the summer? What are some things you like to do in spending your summer, or do you get any of that?
No, we do. I mean, I'm probably not the best example for that, but I'll get in the yard. I like having a really nice yard. We'll go on vacation. I think we're going to go down to Alabama on the Gulf Coast this year.
I was going to say, do you set that, or does the wife handle all that?
Wife handles all that. I don't. I'll find a few things along the way that are fun, but it's just one of those things for us. Is like, the summer's a great opportunity for us. It's not high pressure. It's pretty low pressure time. But it gives you a chance to coach, and so that part is fun to me in terms of, we're not full go, but we still love football and we're still showing up doing football every day. About a little downtime. I mean, you got to, there has to be start and ends. I believe that. So I want that. There's a week. We're going to get a week and a half off between spring football and summer. I want that to be a recharge. I'll do some, but really it's a recharge for the kids and the staff. And then we're going to take about a week and a half off around the 4th of July this year. And again, I want that to be a recharge time where we come back and mindsets are locked and loaded on what we're trying to get done.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on with us here quickly this morning. I know you're literally about to head out to the practice field. And so I appreciate you putting us in your schedule here on this big day for Mav football.
Yeah, well, I appreciate y'all, and let me know if I can do anything for y'all, and go Mavs.
Will do. We'll see you in the fall or in the summer sometime, probably. Good luck, Coach.
Good.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and welcome back in to the press box here this morning. My regular co-host, of course, Matt Paul, the sports director at KMHT, and then, of course, pastor, Friendship Baptist Church. We had a little detour this morning, Matt, as I understand, to the dentist office, the dentist chair.
That's right.
Everyone wants to start their Monday morning, right?
For sure. It all went well though, so that's good. But
good.
Yeah, it's not always the best way to start a Monday, but when it goes good and you get it done with, that's good.
Well, you mentioned scheduling these things and how it always goes with everyone, and I kind of roll my eyes whenever I go to the dentist or doctor and they say, okay, we want to bring you back in 6 months. What day do you want? What time do you want? I'm like, I don't know, you pick one and we'll figure out when we get there if that's a good day or not. You're right. Who can tell 6 months? Exactly. Who knows if we're going to be doing a podcast on that morning, right?
I mean, yes, exactly.
So I do want to thank again Coach Hammett for stepping in with us here and kind of talking a little bit about Marshall Spring Ball that's starting literally today in our area, and they're excited about getting all that going there with the Mavs. And he and I kind of talked a little bit about the difference of it's kind of different for each coach, and Marshall is having spring ball. I don't think, like, for instance, Hallsville's going to wait and take that extra week in the fall. So it's just kind of a personal preference, or really kind of how your program goes.
Yeah. And it's especially, and he may have talked about this, especially on a year such as this one, when there are so many pieces you're looking to replace, that spring ball is very valuable, very valuable.
All right, let's get right into here the stuff you and I really enjoy talking about also. Of course, coming off the big NFL draft, which is in the books again for this year. And Look, man, I don't want to say – I'm not going to go out and go on a limb and say that the Cowboys actually, quote, won the draft, right? I don't think you can sit there and say they actually were the best draft class of any team in the NFL. I do think there's probably a couple others that are happy with what they did and quite frankly, had a little bit more to work with in terms of picks. But from everything I can see from my very uneducated fan perspective, Dallas did what they had to do in this draft and hit a home run with it.
Everywhere I'm seeing is a grade of A. I mean, I guess you could have been an A+, but I mean, like, if you're getting an A, that means that by and large the analysts, and look, you know how it is with draft, it's like with recruiting, it's all on paper right now. I mean, yeah, we've got video, but we haven't seen them at a professional level, but it's all on paper. But on paper, for sure, top 3, I would say, in the NFL, which is a bit of a deviation from the norm.
Yeah, and that's an important distinction that you mentioned there. And look, as a Cowboy fan, and I even mentioned it on Friday, I think, it's the greatest day of the year as a Cowboy fan for the last 30 years because it brings you hope. And then the fall arrives and all hope is lost very quickly, usually. Sometimes it does extend and then the hope is lost, in January of all places and times, which is a little bit more kick to the teeth. But sitting here today with the picks they brought in, 7 of them, to be honest, and I'll just say this because I never I've never seen Anthony Smith play a football game. The receiver they took in the 7th round.
Yeah.
Everyone up until that point, the previous 6 picks, I think were A, really good football players potentially, and B, filled a need for the football team. And they were even actually able to bring in via trade a much-needed veteran linebacker in D. Winters, right, from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Getting him and the kid from Michigan, the Barham kid, who, depending on who you talk to and you listen to, I have some Michigan fans who tell me that he's got all the ability, all the mentality. You just got to kind of sometimes teach him where to go and how to do it and hope he's in the right spot. But as far as the ability goes, man, I mean, you watch his tape, that's a pretty impressive kid they got in the 3rd round.
Yeah, and I mean, you got an edge dude from Alabama whose name is LT. I mean, come on, you can't beat that right there, right? Yeah, but no, I think they obviously got better on defense, which, I mean, okay, that's a pretty low bar to improve that defense, but they really, I think they got a lot of versatility. That position edge that we put out there a lot, I think we just assume that's a defensive end, but not necessarily. Those edge guys can morph kind of between linebacker, defensive end, or some hybrid position like that. So I like that they kind of loaded up there. Obviously, the ringleader of it all is Caleb Downs, and that's a potential, a high level safety. Just by walking onto a team can make a poor secondary at least tolerable. If you've got someone on that back end. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I don't know what more the Cowboys could have done. Yeah, at least at the end of the day, you go into the season thinking whatever we could have done, we did in the draft.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, sitting here on Monday, April the 27th, as we record this, 2 days after the draft, my hopes are very high.
Yeah.
As high as they will ever be for the next 365 days. Right?
Understandably so. Yeah.
And I'm going to need you in the fall
to
remind me, you're my spirit animal when it comes to that, Pastor. And keep me grounded. You say, hey, back on April 27th, remember that feeling you had? It was all roses and rainbows, and try to keep me from throwing them to the garbage dump again, as I inevitably will.
That's right.
Such is the experience of a lifetime Cowboys fan around here.
Yes, sir.
Man, did you see the fall of Diego Pavia?
Man.
I was trying to think of, and naturally it goes back to last year a little bit with the fall, the drop that you kept seeing with Shedeur Sanders. And I think if you kind of tie those two together, they're almost the same kind of situation in that, really, to get right down to it and just put it bluntly, the kind of the air and the attitude that these players may have brought into the room turned some teams off, turned every team off in the case of Pavia. I mean, up until late yesterday, he was on the unemployment line looking for a job that may not have included anything related to football.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on? I mean, we've talked about Pavia throughout all last season as being obviously a prime Heisman candidate, finished runner-up in the Heisman. But man, you talk about a fall from grace from a kid who had everything going for him in terms of likability, play style. He was the underdog, and to get to the point where he is now, to where no one wants to touch him in the draft, you don't really see that. It's kind of a historic fall that he had.
Yeah, and I mean, some of it is a life lesson, right? You want to act like a jerk. Sometimes people don't want to be around you. There's just a kind of a basic thing there. I mean, he's listed at what, 6 foot tall. That's not really typical,
yeah.
and he's not. So that he's already facing some disadvantages there. Look, I'm not saying he's a scrappy kid that knows how to make plays, kind of a Vandy's version of a Johnny Football, maybe. A little undersized, but also a little bit of a head case, and we saw him drop. I don't know. I mean, he might be able to latch on somewhere and make it. He's got enough in the tank to do it, but you can't blow through life in anything, even in a showman sport like football. You can't blow through life thinking that you're it and everybody else is beneath you and acting like it, and then be shocked when you kind of get slapped in the face.
Yeah,
that's just kind of
no one was shedding any tears for him on Saturday night, and that's very telling. You didn't hear a whole lot of crying for the injustice that was given to Diego Pavia. And they brought that on himself. Now he did, as of Sunday night, he did get an invite as an undrafted free agent with the Ravens, and so they're going to give him an opportunity. But outside of the attitude, I think you look at the measurables. He's literally a sub 5'10" quarterback who is limited physically in terms of just the NFL prototypical quarterback. And so he had all of that working against him, and he didn't need all this other stuff. I will say this, by all accounts, it does appear just from the outside looking in that Shedeur got the message. And, a lot of that stuff that kind of kept him falling down draft boards last year appeared to kind of dissipate a little bit, probably. I mean, you didn't hear a whole lot of the arrogance that was coming out of Brown's camp, because I think he was humbled a little bit. And sometimes kids need that. Sometimes there's other kids who are probably a little bit more mature and don't need that at that age. And so it is kind of a growing experience. So from Pavia's standpoint, I do hope he can learn that. And look, if he's good enough, he'll latch on. If he's not, he'll end up in the UFL or the CFL or something like that and try to build a career that way. But that was one of the interesting headlines coming out of the draft. For one thing, I was watching the draft, and it never hit my mind that he was even on the board.
Yeah.
I had forgotten all about him, because I just don't see him as a pro prospect. But there is no doubt the off the field stuff really hurt him in this process. Speaking of falling in the draft, I wanted to mention this too, because I've kind of developed a theory about this, and it was really honed in more. Look, man, you want to hit your draft picks every year, 1 through 3, rounds 1 through 3. because 4 through 7 largely are what I call a crapshoot, man. I mean, it's like you're literally throwing darts at a board. We talked about how you don't know how these players, even first rounders, are going to respond. You for sure don't know these 4 through 7 kids. You hope you hit on a few every now and then. Dallas, for the most part, the Cowboys have hit on some of these 4th rounders, which was why I think they were, so hesitant to even consider giving up 4th rounders in trades. Now, the 5th rounders, the 6th rounders, and things like that, for every Tom Brady that you find there, you're going to find some guy who literally is working in the oil field a year after the draft. I mean, just, something like that. And that's not a knock on oil field workers. That just means that's not an NFL player's dream when they go into the draft, right? I mean, but that's kind of where they belong. And so, you're going to see that. And I think the actual draft presentation, I'm watching it on the TV the other night. I'm like, just make the pick. Just make the pick. It's like pick 200 in the draft, and it takes you 10 minutes to get the pick out because of all the pomp and circumstance they bring into it. Some of that's cool, but man, at that point in time, after a long weekend of 3 days, just tell me who the team picked, and let's move on, right?
Yeah,
I remember back in the day when this thing went 12 rounds, Matt. Imagine that.
Oh yeah. Well, and I really feel like in a lot of ways, that 4th round is where you're going to run into some guys that really are scrappy and got something to prove. They've managed to make something out of nothing or out of a difficult circumstance, and they've got something to prove. Or you're going to run into guys that it's like, wow, your talent's way better than 4th round. Why have you fallen here? Oh, and you hope you have more of the former than you do of the latter.
Absolutely. And it is, I mean, most NFL scouts will tell you it's guesswork at that point. I mean, you do your work and you do the best you can and you find out what you can. And then when you turn that card in, you're literally guessing as to what you're going to get. You won't know until you get them into mini camps and things like that. And I wonder how many coaches get these players on the field for the first time and say, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What did we see in this kid? Also wanted to mention here again, looking back at some things from the NFL draft, and this always bothers me, and I may have mentioned this before on a podcast in the past, but these player interviews, man, they are so cringy to me. Why we continue to, put these kids up in a position to actually speak like that when it's obvious that they're not comfortable doing it. And then B, I've always thought, why at the college level, a kid can play 5, 6, 7 years even of college football and still not know how to conduct himself in a one-on-one interview. Yeah. Guys, let's teach these guys who are going to be pro football players how to talk in front of the camera when they're asked a question. Number one thing, and this sounds petty, but I'm going to say it because I'm a petty guy, especially when we're coming to talk about football. But, when I look at that, I'm like, it's obvious you're talking to a female reporter. Why do we have to say man?
Yeah.
M-A-N, right? It's a lady. Yep. Don't call her a man. Things like that. Do you notice things like that, or are you able to draw anything from these one-on-one on-the-spot interviews?
Well, Arvell Reese was kind of the poster child for it, wasn't he? I mean, that was hard to watch as he tried to process basic answers. But I mean, like, I as someone whose trade is mostly communication, and someone who was raised by an English major who, writing and speaking properly was all very drilled into me from an early age. Like, it's kind of difficult. But at the same time, man, I don't know. It's, I just wonder what it would be like for folks like that to be, when have they had that sort of interview? I mean, like, I know they've had post-game interviews right after games, but this isn't in the context of a game. This is all just like, it's a huge party and there's lights and, hey, you've got a brand new team. By the way, I mean, I mentioned Arvell Reese. You're now moving to New York and starting a new life there. for this franchise that's trying to turn everything around. What does that mean to you? Gosh, that's a lot. That is a whole lot to have to sum up. And so, yeah, I feel like it would be great if we could, I don't know, maybe have some questions that we give them ahead of time. And here are the 3 questions. You're going to be asked at least one of these 3 questions, and it's going to be basic. We're not going to ask you about this franchise that you're still learning about because you had no idea 5 minutes ago that you were going to be going there until you got drafted. But so that would maybe cut down on some of it. But I don't really fault the players because I just think that's a tight spot to be put into.
I agree. And just, I'll let everyone know out there, whenever we bring a guest on this podcast, I always let them know before we start recording, here's what I'm going to ask you, because I don't want them to be blindsided. I'm not into gotcha journalism. And the folks and the things we talk about, there's no need for that. And so I want them to be as prepared as possible. And you can tell that these kids have no idea what they're going to be asked in the biggest moment of their life. I mean, it is a little bit understandable that they really are a little bit speechless. The thing, the one that really made me really cringe the other night was the Mekhi Lemon, the Stevie Wonder imitation he was doing was just bizarre.
That was odd.
And you don't want to put a young athlete in that particular situation where he's, I just think it's unfair to do that to him in front of the entire nation in that moment.
Agree.
Moments later, maybe backstage, you do it, not just, just seconds literally after he's, shook hands with the commissioner on the stage. So just wanted to mention that out there. That's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine that apparently no one's listening to, because I've been shouting from the rafters on that one about we need to train these kids and teach them how to actually do interviews before they do interviews. And there's a lot of pro players who've been doing it in the league for years who still can't talk to an interviewer. I mean, they just don't know how to answer questions. Okay, I want to give you some quick stats here as we get ready to close out our draft coverage on the Right Team podcast. Matt, it just means more, literally more. 87 SEC players were drafted, which is the most by any single conference in NFL history. 21 more than the Big Ten. Kind of took it on the chin a little bit, I think, in the first round when you just look at first rounders. Of course, Ohio State had a lot to do with that with their first round players. When you overall look at it here, 87 kids that played in the SEC got drafted this past weekend. Kind of troubling here. Well, not necessarily troubling. I think it's telling when you look at some of the lower not lower for classification, some of the lower kind of mid-major conferences. In the past, you would see those numbers inflated a bit. The gap between the SEC and the Power 4 conferences now is so telling of the age that we're in with NIL. And these kids who transfer from those smaller schools and lesser profile type schools into the bigger conferences now, and they get that SEC tag put on their name when they get drafted. And so that kind of has inflated these numbers a little bit. But I thought that was kind of telling. But the SEC, at least by overall draft picks, is still well ahead of all the other conferences in the country.
Yeah, the days of Jerry Rice and Steve McNair coming out of the SWAC and getting drafted are probably done by and large. But yeah, I mean, that was I think – I don't know that the SEC is like way better than it ever has been in the past. If it is, why can't we put anybody in a national championship game anymore? But I do think that the talent is always there. It's always going to be there, and that shows right there.
Over the last 3 years, you have 3 schools who are leading the way in terms of total players drafted. Texas, Georgia, and Ohio State over the last 3 years have had 29 players drafted. The Longhorns got shut out in the first round this year, but ended up, I think, with 6 players that were drafted in the later rounds. Texas A&M was actually tied for the lead, I believe, at number 10, or actually maybe second. I can't remember. I don't have that number in front of me, but the Aggies had a good showing in the draft this year. 10 players were drafted from Texas A&M. Coming in second over the last 3 years, of course, again, 2 big schools, Alabama and Michigan at 27 apiece. So you got 3 SEC schools and then 2 of the Big Ten schools rounding out the top 5 in terms of total players drafted over the last 3 years. Again, that kind of goes with what we were talking about.
And how about the kind of crazy, the fact that University of Texas was only 3rd in the state of Texas for number of players drafted, because Tech had 9. That kind of shows you, of course, the NIL boom there in Lubbock. I mean, look, you won the Big 12, you made the playoff, and you had 9 guys drafted. I'd say it's off to a good start. You have to feel pretty good about that. But yeah, it's still the main teams are the main teams. That's kind of the way it is. It's still that way. Some things may change, but by and large, they also stay the same.
If you look at the projected top 10 picks of next year's class, which we have also said on this podcast could be another historic draft class, this will make up for a little bit of an underwhelming class this year in terms of total talent. Let me just read you the top 10 players that are already in the 2020 or projected to be in the 2027 draft class. This is coming from the site I use to do my mock drafts, which is the PFSN, Pro Football Network. I'm just going to read you from the way they have them ranked here. I disagree with some of these rankings, but it's going to be very telling. And again, these things never pan out the way they do. I believe I think the same site had Garrett Nussmeier as a top 10 player last year at this time. So that's, take that into account when I read these. But these are pretty solid names. I don't see them falling too much. Number 1, they have Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Number 2, the cornerback from Notre Dame, Leonard Moore. Number 3, this one kind of surprised me. They have Dante Moore, the quarterback from Oregon, actually ranked ahead of Arch Manning, who is actually coming in on this list at number 7 overall.
Okay.
I vehemently disagree with that. Edge from South Carolina, Dylan Stewart. And then I mentioned this before, and this is why I was not too upset with the Horns showing in the draft this year, because it's going to be made up next year. The 5th, 6th, and 7th spots here in the rankings of next year's draft class are all Texas Longhorns players. Number 5, Cam Coleman, wide receiver. Edge, Colin Simmons, and then Manning comes in at number 7. Again, I personally think, as we sit here today, it's unless he just completely falls off the rails this year, Arch Manning will be your top pick next year, or he'll come back to Texas. A Manning is not going to allow another Manning to not be the number 1 pick in the draft. The number 8 player they have ranked here is LSU offensive tackle Jordan Seaton. Number 9 is defensive tackle David Stone out of Oklahoma. And then rounding out the top 10 in the PFSN early 2027 draft rankings is Trevor Gooseby, offensive tackle out of Texas, which would give the Longhorns 4 of the top 10 ranked players in next year's draft. That's pretty impressive. That's your Ohio State comp from this year.
No doubt.
I do have some issues, like I said, with Arch Manning. I do believe whoever gets that pick next year, we may actually see some historic tanking in the NFL with guys like Manning and Dante Moore coming out. But, man, it's hard to argue somebody that would draft Jeremiah Smith and Cam Coleman at that spot, too. You have potentially up to maybe 5 potential top draft picks who are worthy of that. Just a crazy draft from talent next year.
Going to be wild. Really curious to see. Of course, as you've just said, I mean, there's a whole lot of things to shake out before we know all that. There's a whole season to be played. But, yeah, on the surface right now, it looks like a lot of talent.
That's your NFL draft. And, again, it was a lot of fun this week. And, again, I'm cautiously optimistic. Once again, hope springs eternal in April that the Cowboys at least are going to have an opportunity. Brad Burris, who was our guest on Friday's show, he and I were talking at church yesterday, and we're just like, man, we don't even care about the Super Bowl at this point. Just get us to an NFC championship game. If we can just get that monkey off our back, we're happy with that as Cowboy fans. That's how low the bar has become for America's team.
Goodness.
Okay, let's shift gears here a little bit and move on to the NBA playoffs. Matt, you are a resident expert of all things basketball. Tell us some of your tidbits that you took from this past weekend's action in the first round of the NBA playoffs.
Well, I just got news that Boston hit another three just a second ago. They hit 24 3-pointers. I said, I told you, when they lost game 2 at home, I was like, that actually felt right. The last couple of years, we've been better on the road than at home. So Boston kind of takes a commanding 3-0 lead there. But I will say it was kind of interesting. I'm going to save one thing for my back page, but like right now, I was thinking about it last night. Right now, it's whoever wins the Thunder and the Spurs against the Celtics is what you're looking at. Now, a lot can change. It has changed before. I think Saturday and Sunday, you had some teams that maybe saved their skins. The New York Knicks had to win in Atlanta, and they did. That series at 2-2. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors, it looked like the Cavs were in control of that one. The Raptors win 2 in a row, rallying yesterday multiple times to even up that series. But probably the series that kind of stands out to me the most right now, just from what is going on and what does this mean for your legacy and all that good stuff, is that Rockets-Lakers series. And you had it on the list to talk about. The Rockets got a win last night to stay alive. But the meltdown on Friday, I think it was Friday, was just, there's 25 seconds left. You're up by 6 and you have the ball. And the game goes to overtime. Now, part of that was, LeBron adds to his legacy with an epic game-tying 3-pointer after he forced a steal that was just off the charts incredible. It was great stuff to watch. But, for me, I talk about legacy. I'm like, look, man, KD, I understand, I guess you're hurt, but teams need to start moving off this guy. Houston was already down a peg with Fred VanVleet going out for the season earlier, a long time ago. But this is a Lakers team you can get a win against. They don't have Luka, they don't have Austin Reeves. And KD just can't do it. He can't do it. And I'm not blaming him. I know that's how it goes sometimes, but it's not a great look on the legacy when, you're looking and saying, well, thank God you teamed up with Steph for a couple years. So you got some titles. Because other than that, I don't know what you're bringing to the table other than just being a prolific scorer, which I'm sorry, there's been a lot of prolific scorers in NBA history.
Yeah. And I could promise you the Rockets didn't make that trade last summer to have him missing games in the playoffs.
No.
Even if he's not 100%, that's a bad look, especially with the situation they find themselves in now. They did stave off elimination, as you said yesterday, but it's just a matter of time. And, the legend of LeBron continues to grow. And the Lakers are just, I don't know. You look at this thing and it's like, we're not going to play our guys until we have to. And the Rockets are actually doing them a favor by not being competitive in this series. And just think about now how healthy the Lakers are going to be when inevitably Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic come back. Whereas right now they're not really having to be pressed to do that and come back early. And so they're actually getting more healthy with every single passing day. That's going to be a scary team for somebody to face here in rounds 2 and, finals going forward.
Well, and I'll tell you what's interesting, and I got to give my boys credit for this. I don't know if you've ever noticed this. You may not pay enough attention to the NBA. Inevitably, almost every year, there is a Saturday or a Sunday where some team is playing their game 7, but on the same day, you've got two teams who are playing game one of the next round. They will actually start game one of the next round before a round one series has ended. And, you know, if the Lakers had finished it off last night and the Thunder finish off the Suns tonight, that's the series that would be tabbed to start early. And I don't know that the Lakers want that series to start early. I think they want that series to start as far off as it
That's
can.
a great point. That is a great point.
Again, that is my boys' theory that they put out there. That's not from me. I want to be clear that Andrew and CJ told me about that one, or I think CJ told me that Andrew told him, or
You should
whatever.
be so proud of your offspring.
I tell you what, but it is worth considering that it might not be ideal for the Lakers to win just yet. Now, look, you don't want to screw around and go back to Houston for a game 6 and then they've got all the momentum now, but it was just worth mentioning, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's a way. I mean, what's their next game? Tuesday, maybe, out in LA? I think they go back to LA, right? No,
they do go back to LA, yeah.
On Wednesday. So they've got, another couple of days here as we're recording this, and before they have to play game 5 out there in LA. And so you're looking at maybe another full week now that they're looking at of healing time for those two guys. Yeah, I think, the Lakers don't want to wait too long to finish this one out. And because then if the Rockets can take this back to Houston, I mean, you kind of have a different series at that point.
You do.
Looking at right now. So, that's a very interesting thing to watch and a great theory. I think I agree with that one. Notch that one up for the Paul boys as we're sitting here today. Man, what is going on in these other series with these fisticuffs? I mean, it happened twice over the weekend. The Nuggets and the Wolves really do not like each other. And again, of course, a keynote I saw yesterday, of course, now the T-Wolves are in trouble. Anthony Edwards apparently has sustained a bone bruise. Hyperextension in his left knee, expected to miss multiple weeks, according to Shams. So that's not good news for Minnesota.
No, and that was actually, and I've got a quirky part to it that I'll add on the back page. But that was kind of what I was going to talk about. Is it's just been brutal to watch these injuries. DiVincenzo also went out with an Achilles. He's done. So the Wolves lost DiVincenzo and Edwards in that game, then still won the game. Denver. Aaron Gordon's been battling health issues. Of course, you had Wemby, who came back, but he got the concussion earlier. Jalen Williams from the Thunder, their second best player, is out for an indeterminate period of time with an injury. Almost all these are in the West, but it's kind of like, gosh, this is rough. This is not what you want to see. You were wanting to see, if you're looking at a Thunder Lakers series, but potentially no Luka and no Jalen Williams, or a Spurs and Timberwolves series, maybe Wemby's back, but no Anthony Edwards. It's tough. You hate to see it. It's really, really not what you want on what was looking to be a very high level NBA playoffs.
Yeah. It's look, I am no San Antonio Spurs apologist as a Mavs fan, of course, and so I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm pulling for them to win anything, but it is good to see Wemby able to come back after that fall he took and be able to compete in these things, because I have to be careful when I say this, because I do truly, I'm a hate watcher. I may have established that before here.
Yeah.
And so, that is what it is. I don't love the game enough, really, in any sport, to be able to sit down and watch it if my team sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I hate watch. And so I'm not saying at all that I, want the Spurs to win this first round series, but I also understand the generational type player that they have. I don't want them losing because their generational player is out for an extended period of time. That makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't hate him enough yet to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I may get to look. I used to try to hate Tim Duncan, and I really couldn't bring myself to do it. I found myself hating other players on his teammates double. But I kind of respected and like Tim Duncan and David Robinson and those guys, but I just couldn't generate the dislike for them that I could for some others. So anyway, good to see him back on the floor yesterday. All right. You mentioned the back page. That's a great segue into what you have for us here today on your back page, sir.
Well, let me just tell you these injuries. How's this for freaky? So Dante DiVincenzo tearing his ACL was now the fourth guy in the last couple years. Not his ACL, excuse me, his Achilles. He's the fourth guy in the last couple years, significant guy, like starter guy, to have the ruptured Achilles in the playoffs. We're talking him last year, Jason Tatum, who, holy cow, has he bounced back quickly. Last year, Tyrese Halliburton from the Pacers. And then you also had Dame Lillard, who is still kind of recovering from that. Did you see this, that all four of them wear the jersey number 0?
I did not.
How freaky is that? 4 guys who have suffered the same injury to knock them out of the postseason, and they're not like nobodies. They're starters on playoff teams. Some of them are all-stars, and they all wear jersey number 0. Wow. That's bizarre. That's really bizarre.
Wow. Yeah, and by the way, can't say jersey number 0 because 0 is not a number. So okay. Jersey 0.
Okay, gotcha. They have a 0 on their jersey. But anyway, I just
That's
thought
your AP
that was
style lesson for the day.
Yes, I thought that was quirky. But my other one, I don't know if you saw this, but breaking this morning, we have a new number 1 recruiting class for college basketball next year. Because a star player from Finland, Mika Murinen, 7 foot, kind of swing power forward, has committed to Arkansas. In addition to having 3 other 5-star, like traditional 5 stars, they've now added a 7 foot, 19-year-old from Finland who played in high school the last couple years, but this year went and played professionally over in Europe. So ESPN has now moved Arkansas up to the number 1 recruiting class. So I had to mention that. I'm pretty fired up about it.
Yeah, congratulations.
But also, have you seen that your Longhorns killed it in the portal in basketball this year? Holy cow. Like that's a
why
top
I can
10
say
team in the nation.
With somewhat of arrogance to your pride in your number 1 class is that, hey, we got a pretty good one ourselves coming in.
Yep. And of course, with us having Calipari, it's typically recruits, high school recruits, right? For what we see with Texas, it's mostly portal. But man, they racked up in the portal. I fully expect them to be top 10 preseason next year. It was crazy.
Yeah, that kind of scares me because historically, the more attention that's put on Texas men's basketball from a national perspective, we tend to kind of shrink back from that. So interesting to see. It's one thing to get all those guys into your program out of the portal. And we've seen this in football. It's another thing to get them to mesh together and perform to the expected talent level. That's all on the coach. Okay, my back page, I want to dip into Major League Baseball here. Matt, I have come to the realization, I don't know if you ever saw the Seinfeld episode where Kramer looks at Jerry and says, "You know who you are? Even Steven."
Yep.
And that's what I'm afraid the Rangers are. And, it's kind of shocking when you really think about it. When you take a team that finishes 81-81 and you make very minimal, no major offensive changes to it, really no changes really overall. It's kind of shocking, I know, to think that you may actually still have a 500 ball club.
Yeah.
The only saving grace in that is that to this point, of course, the AL West is just as middling as the Rangers are. And so 14-14 gets you up near first place, a game out of first place. But, man, the frustration level with this team from game to game is starting to rise up early again. And I just think it's getting to the point where you are what your record says you are. You are a 500 ball club. And you just can't get past that hump. You can't get over that hump. They're not good enough to do it. And they got the Yankees and Aaron Judge coming to town, who right now may be playing the best of anyone in the American League. And so it's not getting any easier there at Globe Life Field. And, it's going to be packed with Yankee fans. It always is. And the Rangers are going to, again, try to struggle to stay around 500 before they go back out on the road here. I mean, the Astros, as bad as their season has been to this point, right now I think are 3 games out of first place. They're just one good winning streak away from actually, running or being in the driver's seat. And Seattle's going to start playing well at some point. This is not a good start for Texas. I don't care what the vibes are coming out of that, and I'm a little concerned. But I just think it all comes down to the fact that, you know what, when you don't do anything to really improve your ball club from season to season, you're probably going to have the same ball club.
Yeah,
if you're lucky.
Yeah, and you're right. It does keep you in the mix for the division, which means and this is what you hate. This is where you don't want to be. I feel like when you get into July as a baseball fan, you either want to know that your team's going to be a buyer at the trade deadline, or that they're going to be a seller. Look, we're not going anywhere. Let's get what we can get for these folks and start building equity with prospects and blah, blah, blah. Or let's go make that move that's going to bring in a player that maybe is going to transform us into a legit contender. And right now it looks like the Rangers are legitimately going to be walking that line and not knowing what to do come July. Which way do we go? Because usually if you're a middling team, you're probably looking to sell, but how do you justify selling if you're only a couple games out of first place? It's going to be challenging. I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of time between now and then, but that's what I see.
I think you're not I kind of laugh when we talk about, the Athletics are 2 games or a game in first place. They're the first place Athletics. I'm like, you shouldn't even really look at the standings. I hope you don't do that as a major league organization until July 1st. I think you need to look at that and start saying, okay, we're either a contender, we're going to be a contender, or let's see how we can get better for next year. I think that comes really July 1st is a good date. It would seem for me to be able to make that call. I think with the Rangers, they take it into a point where, and some of this is on Chris Young because he doesn't seemingly see what everyone else sees. I mean, last year it was obvious your team could not score runs. Yeah. So what do? At the deadline? We go get more pitching. And he did that in the offseason. His biggest move was getting Mackenzie Gore. Yeah. The strongest part of your team was your pitching staff. Why are we not trying to improve our offense? And here you are again. That's basically when I say you have the same team, a good pitching staff, an offense that struggles, and here you are again, 14-14, right where you were at the end of last year. Even Steven. Yep. And that's frustrating as a Rangers fan. Little bit of news coming out of Boston over the weekend. I don't know if you saw this. I'm sure you did see it. Their manager, Alex Cora, gets canned. This is widely panned across the league. I didn't know he was this popular of a manager or respected of a manager. Of course, he got all caught up in that Astros, trash can banging scandal. Cora was the bench coach at the time. But he is out as Red Sox manager. That smacks to me of a desperation move here. My gosh, we're not even to May yet, and you're firing your manager. That's usually not good to make those kinds of decisions from a position of desperation. But the Red Sox did it. Yeah. And one more thing here, I'm gonna throw you a little curveball from what I wrote here, but I wanted to just kind of because it's getting down to cases here in terms of college baseball, Matt. And you and I think, stand on solid ground and common ground here when we think the SEC is by far the best baseball conference. I think that's debatable in other sports, but I think in baseball it's not debatable. But when you look at these standings here, you got the top 6 teams who are within 4 games of each other. Heading down here into I believe they have 3 weeks left in the conference standings. Georgia is leading the league at 15-6, followed by Texas A&M at 14-6. Then you got Texas 13-7, Mississippi State 13-8, Auburn 12-9, Florida at 11-10. And my gosh, the defending national champion LSU Tigers, Matt, are a full 9 games out of first place in the SEC. Never saw that one coming. Never saw that one coming.
It's wild. I keep waiting on them to figure it out and put it all together, and they don't. They
three straight sweeps. They've suffered 3 straight sweeps the last 3 weekends. That's inexcusable at a baseball program like LSU.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't
know.
Your
Hogs are struggling to stay above 500, and a pretty good baseball team up there in Arkansas.
Yeah, we have, and that's the thing. We have clearly not put it together this year, but it's a down year for us. A down year ought to be something like that. It shouldn't be. What are they, 6-15? Is that what they are?
LSU is 6-15 right now.
Yeah, that's not a down year. That's a catastrophe. That'll wipe the taste. Not totally, don't get me wrong, but that'll start wiping the taste of that national championship out of your mouth real quick when you get that bad. Gosh.
Absolutely. I mean, I could see out of that group for sure 4 regional sites, maybe 5, depending on what Auburn can do down the stretch.
Yeah.
And that's
Auburn's RPI is really solid. I think they got a good shot.
Yeah. For schools like Texas, again, they're game or so out, game and a half in these standings. That 2-game sweep at the hands of A&M is going to hurt them when it comes down to seeding, which is not really that big a deal for the conference tournament. The Horns right now are trying to find a way to get into that top 8 and get one of those super regionals. I think would be key for them there at Dish Falk. So a lot of stuff to watch here down the stretch in SEC baseball, but I wanted to kind of give us an update on the standings here coming off of the weekend. A lot of good games still left to play. But those standings will change, I'm sure, at this point in time next week.
No doubt. Boy, softball is closing up their regular season in SEC. Arkansas is actually coming to Texas this weekend, and it's the regular season finale.
Yeah. Love spring sports at the college level, man. There's nothing better than that.
Yep.
That brings us to our final word of the day, which, Matt, I've chosen from Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. It says, "You are the light of the world. A city situated on a hill cannot be hidden." I'm sure you know this, but God, in the very first chapter of the Bible in Genesis 1, said, "Let there be light," which was a divine interaction that chased away darkness. That same passage of scripture also says that darkness covered the face of the deep, and the world was engulfed in darkness until God came and said, "Let there be light." There's 3 properties of light that I think are very important when we look at this. Number 1, it's reflection. Light can bounce off surfaces, right? That's the only way you actually see light in your eyes is, of course, it reflecting off of something else. I think that's important in our Christian lives as well, to be able to be that light reflector that other folks can see Jesus in us. Another property of light is refraction, which means light changes direction when it passes from one medium to another. Light can change things. Light can chase away darkness. Light can take a straw that's as straight as an arrow, you put it in a glass of water and make it look bent, right? Light changes direction. Light can change the direction of anyone's life when it comes into it. And then, of course, and I'm always fascinated by the speed of light. Light travels incredibly fast. It's hard to really take our minds around this and wrap it around it, but 186,000 miles per second. What does that mean? Well, it takes about 8 minutes for light from the sun to travel to Earth. That's how fast it's traveling, and that's how long that is. So the light you're actually seeing when you look out your window right now is light that 8 minutes ago came from the sun. In terms of our spiritual lives, the light of Christ can change things incredibly fast. It may seem like it's going awful slow in life, and the prayers that you have for that loved one to find Christ and come to Christ, keep praying that, because it can happen incredibly fast when light comes into your life. And so just like a city on a hill, guys, just remember out there today, don't try to hide your light. Let it shine for Christ. It's a very powerful illustration of what our lives are supposed to look like when we're walking with the Lord.
Amen.
So that's your final word today here on From the Press Box on the Right Team Podcast. He's Matt. I'm David. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube at the Right Team Podcast. You can also follow us on Facebook for additional content and updates you will not want to miss. As always, stay tuned, subscribe. That's very important so you won't miss an episode. As a reminder, we've got something for everyone on this podcast. Also invite you to take a listen at our daily Right Team Daily episodes that we share on the actual audio version of the podcast, where I share some things, some big events of that particular day, some birthdays, and a little bit of a daily inspiration as well. Big thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Styles Electric and Right Team Services. We truly appreciate your support. Also want to thank Coach Jason Hammett of the Marshall Mavericks for joining us earlier. A great interview with Coach Hammett. Really like talking ball with him. And he's got a busy time going on there with the start of spring ball at Marshall High School. Thank you for listening and supporting us right here from the heart of the East Texas Piney Woods. Until next time, as always, keep writing your story. At Styles Electric, we believe in doing the job right every single time. Since 1999, we've built a reputation for being reliable, professional, and experienced across commercial projects throughout East Texas. And right now, we're growing. If you're an electrician or looking to start a career in the electrical trade, we want to hear from you. At Styles Electric, you're not just another employee, you're part of a team that takes pride in its work and its people. Join a company where service speaks for itself. Apply today and power your future with Styles Electric. Here in East Texas, every story matters, and Right Team Services is here to help you tell yours. From grant writing for local schools and nonprofits to social media, press releases, and website content for small businesses, we're proud to serve the people and communities right here at home. Clear, professional, effective. If you've got something to say, we'll help you say it right. Right Team Services, serving East Texas one story at a time.